from the CyberHub bunker and studio, you're tuning in to the CyberHub Podcast. And now for your host and CISO, James Azar.
Hey folks, good morning. James Azar here with the Practitioner Brief. I hope you are having a magnificent day. It is October 27th, 2020, which means we're 1 week away from the US presidential election, which means hopefully things go back to normal a week from tomorrow. At least I hope. Without further ado, let's get right into our Practitioner Brief today. But before I do that, make sure to subscribe right now, please. If you haven't subscribed to our podcast or you're not sharing it, which is the best way to let your colleagues, friends, loved ones know about our podcast, do so now. Next week, I'll be also revamping this format a little bit. So next week, I'll actually have every single story instead of on a piece of paper on a computer screen, which I'll be sharing with you. We'll go over the stories. We'll go over the links. It'll still be posted on our website, but I'm changing it up. Also, next week, we start the month of November on Sunday with a very special series for the month of November. It's called Veteran November. That is the hashtag. And for the entire month of November, Sunday through Friday, I'll be posting a podcast episode of 30 minutes at 2 p.m. Eastern Standard Time each and every single day, except Saturdays, folks. The Sabbath, gotta rest one day a week. Highlighting the stories of veterans who've transitioned into InfoSec from all over the globe. I've got US and now I've got British. I might have a few Israelis come on board. We're still wrapping those up. I'll have great guests on, leading CISOs, CEOs of organizations, CTI guys, pen testers, just really the brilliance of our armed services. So make sure to tune in and share those episodes and thank those guys for their service, as I'm dedicating the entire month of November for veterans. And that's it. Okay, let's get right into this. Again, cyberhubpodcast.com. You can get all of our content there. Now let's get right into today's headlines. Container bug exposes cloud account credentials. Amazon sacks insiders over a data leak and alerts customers about it. An IoT device takeover surged 100% in 2020. A security vulnerability. We'll start with our first story, which is the container bug exposes cloud account credentials. A security vulnerability can be exploited to coerce the container cloud platform into exposing the host's registry or user cloud account credentials. Containered bills itself as a routine tool that manages the complete container lifecycle of its host system, from image transfer to storage to container execution and supervision to low-level storage to network attachments and beyond. It offers deep visibility into the user's cloud environment across multiple different vendors. The bug CVE 2020-15157 is located in the container image pulling process, according to Gal Singer, researcher at Aqua. Adversaries can exploit this vulnerability by building a dedicated container images designed to steal the host token, then using the token to take over a cloud project. A container image is a combination of a manifest file and some individual layer files, he wrote in the blog post. That is he is Gal Singer. The manifest file in image v2 schema 2 format can contain a foreign layer which is pulled from a remote registry when using Containered. If the remote registry responds with an HTTP 401 status code along with a specific HTTP header, the host will send an authentication token which can be stolen. The attackers can thus exploit the problem by crafting a malicious image in a remote registry, then convincing the user to access it through Containered. This can be done through email or other social engineering avenues, according to the National Vulnerability Database write-up. I'm a big fan of containers. This container did patch this bug, which is listed as medium in severity in version 1.2.4, and Containered 1.3 and up is not vulnerable to this specific vulnerability. I'm a big fan of containers. Obviously, I think a lot of CISOs might agree with that statement. Some may not. And if you don't, that's fine. We don't always have to agree. Happy to debate that issue. I think containers allows us to segment our specific cloud activity, isolate and so forth, and create defense in depth, and then lower our exposure area as a general rule of thumb. So when I saw this, I wanted to really share it with y'all. it's a biggie, and one that we should be paying attention to, especially as more and more people transition to the cloud. And we know about Google Kubernetes and all this other stuff. So some really big things happening here, folks. Amazon insider threat, folks. Let's talk about that. We haven't talked about insider threat for a while. Amazon has this problem. Amazon has recently terminated employees responsible for leaking customer data, including email addresses, to unaffiliated third party in violation of company policies. The company sent out an email announcement to affected customers following the incident. Over the weekend, the dark abyss of Twitter emerged, with multiple Amazon customers perplexed by email alerts being sent out by the company describing this specific data leak. The key concern was if this was an isolated incident targeting the particular customer had received the email, or other customers were infected too. Motherboard has a story that we've linked to it. They're blaming it on an Amazon employee, and the company says that he's been fired, and that the case has been given to law enforcement. Very interesting. Insider threats are a very, very big deal. Now, this seems to be maybe an employee who may had, I don't know, I haven't read the full story, so I'm going to guess it was someone who was just giving big AWS accounts maybe as email addresses to someone who may have offered him a kickback on the back end to make a few extra bucks. Something that we should always be on the lookout for, and something that, only when Amazon does this and sends an email do we see the stories. This happens every single day in a lot of different organizations. Not to justify the behavior, but to just simply say that there's a ton of challenges with insider threat. This is one of them, obviously. And so keep our eyes open and watch your six. IoT devices takeover surge over 100% in 2020. So connected cameras, we all know Alexa, Google Home, Apple Home, you name it, it's all there. Well, IoT devices are now responsible for 32.72% of all infections observed in the mobile and Wi-Fi networks. That's nearly doubled from 2019. And researchers with Nokia's Threat Intel Lab said in the Threat Intelligence report that they released this week that they believe the number of IoT infections will continue to go dramatically as connected devices continue to populate in homes and enterprise settings alike. Researchers pointed out that the visibility of devices connected to the internet as a barometer. Overall, in 2020, Android devices were most commonly targeted by malware, according to researchers, making up 26.6% of all infections. Meanwhile, Windows devices and PCs, which are increasingly connected to mobile networks via USB dongles and Wi-Fi, made up 39% respectively. So here's the deal, folks. We talk about IoT devices and enterprise network. And when we do that as a CISO, I think as many of you listen and watch this podcast know, we reset it, we segment, we do all of that. COVID changed that. COVID changed our paradigm. I was having a conversation yesterday, and I was saying, I don't know that networking is going to be a big deal 5 years from now, because I really believe that the way corporate networks are built is going to change to a SaaS model. And because more and more people are going to work from home, companies are downgrading their office space. They just are. We're seeing reports of this. We're seeing more and more companies declare that, hey, we're going to continue to work from home until 2021. We're going to, there's a ton of stuff that's happening right now around this. And what ends up happening is people go home. They go home and they're not thinking about their work environment. They work off their dining room table. They work in an office. They work in a room with their kids where there's an Alexa, there's IoT light bulbs. There's all these different things that are all connected to one home network, and all of those can be taken advantage of. And so we're going to have to come up with very, very good solutions as practitioners, as security folks within our organizations, as to how do we define someone's home work environment in their home, and what are the rules and policies to that. I've gone on too long today. I really do apologize. That's it for me here today, folks, with the Practitioner Brief. I'll be back with a lot more tomorrow. Until then, thanks so much for great rest of your day. Stay healthy, folks, and stay cyber safe.
We love feedback, so make sure to connect with us on social media and subscribe to our podcast on your favorite podcast listening platform.